A man named Tim lives with his odd but loving family. His always busy mother Mary, his retired father James who always talks and plays table tennis with him, his adorable uncle Desmond, and his carefree sister named Kit Kat. Together, the family follow the same routine like having tea by the beach every single day, and movie night every Friday evening. Every year, they also host a New Year's Eve party for their friends and family. Before the clock strikes 12, Tim's friend Jay wants to find a girl for him, so he drags him, and they accidentally knock over a table. His friend later leaves him with a girl named Polly, and when the countdown is over, Polly leans in for the New Year's kiss, but he shakes her hand instead, making the girl disappointed. The next morning, Tim wakes up with a hangover and shame for himself. His father later calls him to his room to tell him something that will change his life forever. That is when his father James tells him of his family secret, that every man in the family has the ability to travel back in time. Tim thought it is a joke, but then James says it's true and he explains that they can travel only up to the moment they've been to. Although Tim is still skeptical, he is curious how does it work, and James tells him to just go into a dark place like a big cupboard, clench his fist, and think of the moment he wants to go to. Tim says he will try it, and if it turns out to be a joke, he warns his father that he will be in trouble. He decides to get inside his closet, clench his fist and thinks about the party last night. Moments later, Tim opens the closet, and he is shocked that he is already wearing the clothes he wore during the party. He goes downstairs and is even more surprised that he is actually back to the New Year's Eve party. Jay drags him again, and this time, he pulls his friend so they won't knock over the table. When the countdown is over, Tim goes straight to kiss Polly. Now convinced of his ability, Tim goes back to the present to talk with his father and ask advice. James tells him not to use the ability for money or he will end up like his grandfather. No love, and no friends. He tells his son to think of something that will make him genuinely happy, and all Tim can only think about for now is to find a girlfriend. That summer, Kit Kat's friend Charlotte comes over for a 2-month vacation in their house. Tim is instantly attracted to her. One day while sunbathing, Charlotte asks Tim to put sunscreen on her back, and the guy quickly jumps to help her. Tim ends up spilling the whole bottle on her and gets embarrassed. He runs quickly to the cupboard to time travel, and this time when Charlotte asks him for the sunscreen, he is no longer jumpy, and he did not spill the sunscreen anymore. Throughout the summer, Tim tries to impress his sister's friend, but he always fails. On Charlotte's last night in the house, Tim gathers courage and goes to her room. He confesses his feelings to her, but then Charlotte tells him that he should have said it earlier, when they still had time. With this in mind, Tim goes back to the cupboard and travels back in time. He goes to her room again and confesses, but this time, Charlotte tells him that they should see how summer goes and to ask her again on her last night. Tim seems to have lost hope. On her last day, Charlotte bids farewell, and Tim realizes that no time travel in the world can make someone love him. That next day, it's Tim's turn to leave the house to pursue his law career in London. He will be staying with his father's friend Harry. Harry turns out to be a cynical playwright who is always angry. In his first day at the law firm, he befriends a man named Rory. Pursuing his career did not help in his romantic life as 6 months has passed and Tim still has not found a girlfriend. Until one evening, when Jay invites him on a restaurant where diners eat in complete darkness. They share a table with 2 ladies and Tim has a good conversation with one of them. After dinner, Jay goes with Joanna to get her a cab, and a while later, Mary goes out, the one whom Tim talked with. He is stunned and couldn't almost talk, but he manages to awkwardly ask for her number. They plan to meet again, and Tim seems to have fallen in love. He goes home smiling and happy, but when he arrives, he finds Harry is very much agitated. An actor on his new play forgot his line. To help him, Tim decides to go to his dark room and time travels. He comes with Harry on his play, and he made sure that the actor would rehearse his lines. The play is going well, until another actor forgot his line, so Tim goes back in time again and this time, with his help at the backstage, the play has successfully finished, and Harry now looks happy. Tim later goes to call Mary, but to his dismay, her number isn't there. His dinner with her never happened because he went back in time to help Harry. Tim goes home disappointed. The next morning, Harry shows him the news about his successful play. But then, Tim sees the ad about an exhibit on Kate Moss. Tim remembers well that Mary is a fan of Kate Moss, so he goes to the exhibit where he sits and waits for several days. 1 week has passed, and Mary has finally shown up. He approaches her and Mary is weirded out by him at first, but with his perseverance, he finally gets to have lunch with her and her friend. But then Tim is heartbroken when he learns that Mary has now a boyfriend named Rupert. He asks where and when they met, and he learns that it was just a week ago during Joanna's party. Tim immediately goes to the toilet and travels back to 1 week ago. He goes to Joanna's party and finds Mary to be alone and bored. He introduces himself and invites her to skip the party and have dinner instead. She gladly accepts and the two later gets to know each other better. Mary had a great evening with him, and the two later goes to her house, where Tim spends the night with her. Over the course, their relationship flourishes and Tim has already moved in with Mary. One day, Mary's parents come over to the house, and Tim's first meeting with them goes very awkward, so he travels back in time until it worked out. That night, Tim invites Mary to a theatre, but she is too tired to come, so Tim goes with Rory instead. After the show, he sees Charlotte, his first love. He goes to talk with her, and it didn't go well, so he goes back in time, and it still became awkward. So, on the third time, Tim decides not to approach her anymore. However, outside the theatre, it is Charlotte who sees and approach him. She then invites Tim to have dinner with her, and the two had a fun and great conversation. She tells him about her regret on rejecting him last summer. Charlotte later invites him to her apartment and teases him to get inside, but then Tim turns her down. He runs away, back to the one he truly loves. When he arrives, he wakes Mary up to ask her to marry him, and she gladly says yes. That summer, Tim brings his girlfriend home to meet his family. She immediately gets close to them as she joins on their usual tea by the beach. Meanwhile, Tim is bonding with his father on a table tennis match. During dinner, Tim announces that he and Mary are getting married, and everyone are so happy for them. They even get more ecstatic when they learn that they are having a baby. It is their wedding day, and though their outdoor reception is getting ruined by the storm, everyone is still having fun. The tent is totally tiered up, so everyone runs and has to continue the party indoor. Tim has chosen Rory as the best man, but his speech is very terrible, so Tim runs to his wardrobe and decides to change things. He first chose Harry to do the speech, but it is horrendous, so he changes him with Jay, and still, it is a disaster. Finally, Tim chooses his father to do the toast and he shares how proud he is with his son. Few months later, and Mary has given birth to their daughter they named Posy. They have moved to a new house, and Tim narrates how he is enjoying every moment of his life, that he feels like time travel is no longer necessary. But little did he know, something will change this. On Posy's first birthday, everybody is present except for Kit Kat. Moments later, her boyfriend Jimmy arrives saying they had argument that morning, then Kit Kat gets drunk and drove away with the car. She is caught in an accident and Tim rushes to the hospital with Mary where they find Kit Kat who is badly injured. Tim then travels back in time before the accident to fetch Kit Kat, and they safely arrive home. While talking with his sister, Tim realizes that he only temporarily saved her. Her real problem is with her boyfriend, and Tim decides that he needs to do something with it. He confesses to Kit Kat about his ability to time travel, and now, he plans to bring his sister back in time so she can do things differently. They are later back to the New Year's Eve party where Kit Kat is supposed to meet her boyfriend Jimmy for the first time. They later find the guy, and this time, instead of getting to know him, Kit Kat punches and kicks Jimmy. The two then go back to the cupboard, and when they are back to the present, Kit Kat realizes that she is in love with her brother's friend Jay. It turns out that the two are already in relationship on the new timeline, and it is a better one. Tim looks happy and satisfied as he goes home to his wife. But then when he carries his baby, Tim is shocked because it is no longer his daughter Posy, and he has now a baby boy instead. He consults with his father about this, and he learns that he shouldn't go past the birth of his child, or he will have a different baby. Realizing that he could not change his sister's life, he goes back to the moment where his sister got into the accident. Tim and Mary stay with Kit Kat in the hospital, and they wouldn't leave her alone unless she leaves Jimmy for good. Mary advises Kit Kat that she go out with someone nice, and Tim suggests Jay, saying he had a crush on her. As they arrive home, Tim is happy to see his daughter Posy, and he tells Mary that they should have another one. Although Mary says no, just a couple of years later, we can see that they already have a second baby, and they look very happy. One night while Mary is busy preparing for her dinner with a best-selling author, Tim realizes that he left Posy near his wife's very important manuscript. When they check, their daughter had already shredded almost all of it. Mary is very mad, and Tim decides to go back in time to fix it, but before he can do it, they got a call from his mother, telling them the sad news: his father has a cancer. They immediately go to their beach house, and Tim talks with his father. James said his cancer might have been because of his smoking, but he could not undo it because it was way before Tim and Kit Kat were born. He also reveals that he might only have a couple of weeks left. Before they leave, James teaches his son his secret formula for happiness. First is to get on with ordinary life and live it day by day with all the tensions and worries. And second, is to live every day again almost exactly the same, but this time, to enjoy and notice how sweet the world can be. Tim lives happily as he follows this formula, although there are days that he only wants to go through once, like the funeral of his father. Unprepared to bid farewell, Tim goes back in time when his father is still alive. James realizes that his son just came from his funeral, and they casually talk about it. Tim is happy that he can go back anytime he misses his father. However, one day, Mary tells him that she wants a third baby. It is a tough decision for Tim because it would mean he will no longer be able to travel back to the time when his father is still alive. Months later and the baby is almost on the way. Tim travels back to speak with his father, and it will be for the last time. While he is playing table tennis with him, Tim starts to cry, and James realizes that it must be the last time they would see each other again. The two decides to travel back in time together when Tim is still young. While being careful not to change anything in the present, the two spend their last moments together by the beach. Back to the present, Tim learns to accept that he'll no longer see his father as Mary has now given birth to their third baby. Kit Kat is now also a happy mom herself with her child with Jay. At the end, Tim learns his own formula for happiness. He no longer travels back in time, and instead, he lives every day and enjoys it like it will be the final day of his life. Did you like our movie recap? Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. To be updated for new movie recaps, hit the notification bell.